To skip all the mountain climbing terminology and talk, as I rappelled down, I eventually came across a cave in the face.
I told you.
It was literally this big.
The hills have eyes. I told you, clown. What's good? You still on this channel, huh? You still over here. Hey, you know what's crazy though? Get right to the point. Ain't no cap. Hey, I believe, like, I think it was hills have eyes, right? I legit think when you go like real high up the mountains, because they be saying like people be like just waking up dead or coming up missing. Like, nah, bro. I feel like it be people that actually live inside them mugs and they be eating. Look, all right, look, we don't get into that. We don't get into my conspiracies, all right? Because I'm we about to check out 3 real mountain climbing horror stories by the homie Mr. Nightmare. Want to check out the original video? Link will be in the description below. But let's go.
I'm part of this group that's centered around doing outdoorsy activities like hiking, snowboarding, mountain climbing, and so on. It started as a Facebook group and evolved into a closer-knit group of people, around 10 of us.
That's pretty dope.
Not all 10 or so people go to every outing, obviously. We once organized a trip to Adirondack Park where we could climb one of the many mountain trails. On this trip, it was only 4 of us, DeVito, James, and Christina.
Somebody, a serial
We
killer.
brought sleeping bags and 2 tents.
I bet, watch.
Since James and I were the only guys on this trip, we carried the extra weight of the tents in our bags. Because we wanted to experience this during the beautiful fall foliage, we went in the month of October. The weather was perfect.
Nice.
But still, once it started getting dark, we couldn't continue on the path, and we'd have to set up camp before it would get too dark to do even that. We set up camp on a hard rocky surface, and 3 of us started collecting wood for a little fire. James poured some lighter fluid into the pile of sticks and wood we collected, and that helped get it going.
I don't trust DeVito.
Sitting around the fire, we started to eat whatever foods we had packed while recounting about previous trips we'd taken together. That's when it first happened. A scream from the distance, a woman's scream. A scream that sounded as though someone was being attacked or feared for their lives echoed down the mountain. The 4 of us fell silent and looked at each other. Any of us who had food in our mouths had stopped chewing. We were all just frozen for a few seconds. The scream didn't repeat. We broke the silence by asking what we should do. We should have been alone this far into the trail. Then another sound echoed down the mountain. This one a loud popping sound.
Oh, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Hey, because this is gonna be I'm telling you, bro, this some hills have eyes-ish. Hey, you just telling me so a woman just happened to be in the woods, just getting beat up randomly. We had to hike way up here. You just out here just getting beat up. Like, no, that's cap. That's a setup. Because you're gonna get there and they gonna beat about it. It's gonna be a damn booby trap. You're gonna step in it, and then next thing you know, all you're done. Clown. I'm too smart. You're not killing me in no scary movie.
Like a gunshot at all. But the best any of us could describe it was this high-pitched, loud, single popping sound. We now agreed to put the fire out and get in our tents.
Bye.
We didn't know who was out there.
In your tents.
We now agreed to put the fire out and get in our tents. We didn't know who was out there or what was going on.
I'm gone.
We didn't want to advertise our presence. I shared a tent with James while the girls shared the other tent. Falling asleep in a sleeping bag is always a tough task for me. And when you add hearing a blood-curdling scream out in the middle of nowhere not too far from you, it just makes it even harder. It was an hour or 2 that passed, and James seemed to have already fallen asleep. I was still rolling around from side to side, uncomfortable, when I heard another woman scream.
James, wake the house up.
This one was higher pitched and much, much closer. I sat up and looked at James, who was apparently woken up by the scream.
I hope James is somebody who bought that action.
Leave the tent, because the scream was borderline right outside our campsite. We were discussing if we should wake the girls and pack it up and leave. We'd have a long hike back in the dark ahead of us. We then heard footsteps outside our tent. The sound of shoes hitting the stone floor below us.
Oh, shit.
I called both DeVito and Christina's names, expecting it to be them.
They're not there.
But
They set you
didn't
up.
answer, and the footsteps stopped right outside the tent. I looked at James, who looked back at me with an equally horrified look on his face.
We gotta jump.
Someone then started shaking our tent violently, and James and I started to scream, and we could hear—
James and I started to scream. Y'all didn't get out and jump this clown?
Someone then started shaking our tent violently, and James and I started to scream, and we could hear the girls screaming in their tent as well,
So
in
everybody
reaction to
just
our screams. I said on the count of 3, we leave the tent and fight whoever was out there. I yelled my count to 3, and on 2, the shaking stopped.
Still go.
By 3, I unzipped the door to the tent, and the 2 of us crawled out from it expecting to see someone standing out there. They had already disappeared into the darkness.
I'm coming out.
Probably still watching us. We ran to the girls' tent yelling their names, saying we gotta go. They crawled out with their backpacks and followed us. We went back for our backpacks too after seeing them with theirs, even though our lives could have been in danger.
Clown?
After grabbing our bags and leaving the tents and sleeping bags, we somehow navigated down the mountain through the dark without flashlights on, relying only on moonlight. We had to stop and sit.
Cause you went to get a bag. What was in that bag? Please tell me what was in that bag, cause it better have put you in your bag. He said, but we went back because we saw they had ours. They had theirs. Oh, we forgot we need ours. No wonder why the girls didn't sleep in the different tents with y'all, because y'all obviously some goofies. This is crazy. This is crazy.
Multiple times to rest, but we never stopped to sleep again. Not like we even had to stop and sit multiple times to rest, but we never stopped to sleep again.
My adrenaline too popped up. I'm
Not
gone.
like we even had the option anymore. Plus, we were paranoid that we were being tailed.
Oh, you are?
We had to just keep moving for hours until we made it back to the car. James drove us 20 minutes down the road before stopping, and then we slept in the car. We all woke up.
Keep driving! If someone just tried to kill all 4 of us, we not that tired. I'm not. I drive this mug till the sun come up. This is goofy. This can't be a real story. This is like me, not for real. Like, just speaking, me trying to kill you. You get away from me, but you just chill downstairs on the couch. Like, man, he almost killed me, but I'm gonna chill right here. Oh, I feel like he might be trying to kill me again. Let me go outside on the front porch. I'm gonna chill right here. No, I'm going out this mode all the way off this block. I'm way away from this block. My bad.
Past noon because of how much walking we did and how late we finally got to fall asleep. We told the whole group about it the next day on the drive home. To our knowledge, nothing ever came up on the news about any kind of murders or weird happenings in the Adirondacks around that time. It was in October of 2017 if anyone wants to do some detective work of their own.
Why would we want to go there?
It still holds up as the scariest and overall worst night of my life.
I want to know who was it. Oh, Anonymous, you know this about to be good. What you got?
My uncle is notorious in my family for being a daredevil and always worrying my mom, other uncles, and grandma, especially considering he's been on multiple medications for decades. He's what you'd call an adrenaline junkie, and he's climbed over 5 mountains in his life, most notably Everest. Well, he's attempted Everest, but he didn't make it to the top.
I was about to...
Something in his living on edge personality and mentality slightly changed after he attempted to climb Everest.
He saw when the hills have eyes, niggas.
Mentality slightly changed after he attempted to climb Everest. I was just 10 years old when he did, and even I remember the change. It wasn't until 5 years later that I was told just what happened on Everest. My uncle went alone on his expedition, which may have been his biggest mistake. He said he stayed at base camp for a full day before continuing his climb beyond that point. At first, his climb was easy, he says, and as one would imagine, it got gradually more difficult. Even though it's a well-known fact that many bodies of previous climbers are still to be found on the mountain, my uncle says he never expected to actually find one. He entered the death zone, which is the area of the mountain where the high altitude results in a lack of available oxygen for humans to breathe. This is usually above 8,000 meters, and most of the 200-plus climbers who've died on Everest have died in the death zone. People are advised to not stay in the death zone for more than 16 to 20 hours.
I went there for 16 to 20 seconds. It's called the death zone. I legit was reading something about, I think it was Mount Everest, and it was like it's just kind of common for people to die up there as they're hiking, and it's nothing really no one can do to really save your body, to get your body back, neither to have a funeral. So it's like, it's a GG.
In the death zone. People are advised to not stay in the death zone for more than 16 to 20 hours.
Alright.
While in this zone, my uncle saw his first dead body lodged in a ravine, and being the happy, uppity, bubbly person he is, it was a shock and truly disturbing to him. He described his mood change from, in his words, feeling alive and on top of the world, to in over his head and mortal. Nevertheless, he progressed onward, and when he was tired, he took a break and sat down. Seeing the corpse really messed with his head, and he mentioned that he was also starting to feel dizzy and lightheaded, likely due to the high altitude. My uncle didn't want to get up from his position. He felt like he was losing energy and began talking to himself, My uncle finally got up from his seated position after an hour and decided he didn't have it in him to make it up to the top. He started to make his way down until another climber bumped into him and started telling him to come on, let's go, passing him and climbing further up the mountain where my uncle just came from. My uncle told the man he was not up for it and was going to make his way back down to base camp.
Do not listen to him.
He recounts that as the man spoke back to him, urging him to continue up the mountain, his voice was very echoey and surreal. My uncle said take care to the man and continue back down the way he came with his head spinning and feeling short of breath.
It's that body.
As he continued his way down, every time he'd look up, the man would be behind him, smiling and making hand motions for my uncle to come back up.
I'll push your ass off this mountain.
Smiling and ignoring it would be the best way to get him to leave him alone.
Like shit.
After continuously looking back to that man following him, my uncle finally stopped and started firmly telling the man he wasn't feeling well and just wanted to get back to base camp. The man slightly above my uncle smiled once more and said, "Watch me go over the ledge." Then he walked to the edge of the snow and leaped down, disappearing under the edge. My uncle said that as he saw this, it snapped him out of his daze and he ran over to the edge to look down it. But there was nobody to be seen sliding down the edge of the mountain. No marks in the snow. He didn't even hear the sound of him sliding down the snow initially or anything. Witnessing this made my uncle hurry down the mountain even faster until
I've been skating down that damn mountain. And like, damn, where he going? Sonic, motherfucker, I'm out.
Or anything. Witnessing this made my uncle hurry down the mountain even faster until the next thing he remembered was darkness, then waking up at the base camp medical clinic in a bed. He had passed out and a couple passerbys found him and carried him down low enough to where a rescue helicopter could reach him. My uncle waited until the end of the story to tell me that he was off his meds for the entire trip.
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, is it because he did say he was on meds? Like, he may not just be on weed, he could be on meth? Amphetamine? I don't know. But he said he was not on it.
My uncle waited until the end of the story to tell me that he was off his meds for the entire trip.
I thought he was just...
Mixed with the lack of air in the death zone, he started to quickly hallucinate and talk to himself. Upon getting home, he did some research on recent deaths on the mountain, and learned of a young man who had died climbing Everest that same week who looked just like the man in the hallucination. This is when he started to question if it was actually a hallucination or not. However, the death was reported before my uncle had this alleged hallucination. He still says he's not entirely sure what he saw was a hallucination.
People by me.
I don't press him for more details about this story, as like I said, it's changed him and it's clearly left some kind of mental scar on him. I can't imagine how horrific of an experience this was for him.
I'm getting scared, man. I keep like feeling like somebody by me, bro. Fuck, the hell are you looking at, dog?
I once drove up to Banff National Park in Canada for a day of hiking and climbing. The park is home to numerous mountain climbing trails and is a scenic escape from the city for me to clear my head. I was going through a recent breakup and wanted to get out and get my mind off of it, and I thought this was the best way to do that. I had all my necessary tools in my climbing pack, including rope, a helmet, harness, quick draws, and whatever else I could fit in the bag. I hiked through half a mile of forest until I found a good rock wall I wanted to scale. So I found a strong enough tree to use as my anchor point and wrapped some rope around it. You may be asking why I started from the top instead of the bottom. Well, normally if I were on a known route, there would be eye bolts that are anchored into the rock that I could have just clipped my carabiner to. And when the carabiner is attached, then I'd clip my rope. As I climb up, I would place another carabiner or anchor and so on. But since I was making my own route on this day, I had to anchor at the top of the climb, which is called top roping, and rappel myself down to set each bolt. At the end of all this, I'll be at the bottom and able to climb up after setting my own route.
Man, that's
After I was all set to go, I started to rappel down the face and set my bolts. To skip all the mountain climbing terminology and talk, as I rappelled down, I eventually came across a cave in the face.
I told you.
Literally this big...
The hills have eyes. I told you, clown.
Hole in the mountain wall, but it seemed unusual to me because usually a cave entrance is ground level. I was intrigued, so I climbed inside of it. I had plenty of rope to allow me to go inside. I was sitting at the edge of this opening, looking inside, and it got pitch black in there not too far from the entrance. I wondered how big this cave was, and if it led to a separate entrance on the other side of the mountain.
And you gonna be a goofy and go in it.
But more importantly, I picked up on this buzzing sound from deeper in the cave.
Ain't none of my business.
This very low note kind of buzzing. Like you'd almost miss it if you weren't paying attention. I walked very slowly deeper into the cave, and as the humming got slightly louder, I said hello into the cave. Not because I was expecting an answer from anyone.
You got
nor
one.
did I want an answer. I wanted to see how much of an echo there would be,
Cap.
to give me an idea of how deep this cave went. And there was quite a loud echo. But on top of that, the humming or buzzing sound stopped after I said it. I was creeped out, no doubt, but I was still intrigued as to what that buzzing sound could have been.
The little girl
I
setting you
stepped
up.
just a little more into the cave, the rope starting to wedge at the top of the cave entrance
Somebody
now.
cut it.
I started to hear this slow, deep breathing, and I suddenly knew I wasn't in the cave alone. Perhaps there was an animal in there.
Ow.
I started to back away slowly out of the cave. When I felt I was close enough to the entrance of the cave, I took out my flashlight from my backpack, aimed it into the cave, and my finger quivered over the button for a few seconds. In a moment of poor judgment but pure curiosity,
Come on.
I turned the flashlight on and the cave lit up a bit. At first I thought it was just an empty cave, until I noticed the two heads peering to me from behind the curved cave wall. I could only see half their faces, but they looked sickly and decrepit.
Cause this thing hills have eyes. Have you not seen the movie? I just don't get it. If I'm hiking and I'm by myself, mountain climbing, and like, oh damn, there's usually never a cave right here in the middle. It's usually on the ground. Let me go in here and not mind my business. I'm never ever going to do that. Never ever. I'm curious about a lot of things, but I'm not that curious. You ain't calling me George.
The cave wall. I could only see half their faces, but they looked sickly and decrepit.
Cause they cousins.
The way they were watching me.
And they
were
married.
in the dark seconds ago. Impossible for me to see, but them able to see me perfectly standing by the light
You
near
better
the entrance
jump.
of the cave. I turned off the flashlight and ran for it back out of the cave. I started to climb back up the face when I felt a grip around my ankle trying to pull me back into the cave. I kicked as hard as I could at my attacker. And I felt my shoe hit their face. In response, the sickly looking person let go.
Yep,
I heard
yep.
him make this horrible shriek of pain. He sounded less
Like a
human and
pig?
more like some literal cave-dwelling monster. I didn't look down. I climbed the rock wall faster than I'd ever climbed.
Man, I'd have
I
been.
don't think either of those two barely human things I saw in that cave attempted to come out and grab me. I made it back to the top in a surprisingly quick amount of time due to adrenaline.
Now you gotta get down.
The reason I didn't just allow the rope to safely descend me down to the bottom instead of
'Cause
climbing
they'd
to the
cut it.
top
Yup.
was because I feared they would grab the rope and pull me back up.
Oh, that was so. I didn't think about that. You be trying to climb down. It ain't on. You get your ass. You gonna be dangling like this on the rope. Let me go. Let me go. I didn't think about that, bro. I didn't think about that. The rope is so dangling. You trying to climb down? He's just pulling you up. Get your ass. We got a stupid one too. Boy, we about to cook your ass. Oh my God. My bad, but I didn't think about that.
And instead of climbing to the top, it was because I feared they would grab the rope and pull me back up. I carved 2 big X's at the top of the face, and then 2 more at the bottom, indicating to whoever passes by here not to climb here. I hiked my way all the way back to the side of the road where I parked my car. I had a long drive home lost in my thoughts, appreciating my life and scared shitless,
Yup.
wondering what the hell was wrong with those people in that cave. Why were they in there?
Because they
What
was
were they gonna
cousins
do
and
to
they
me?
married. I told you.
I'm telling you, they looked pale and sickly. They were not regular people.
I know.
I called the park warden's number,
They don't
gave
know.
them the coordinates of
They
the cave,
in on it.
and told them about the dangerous, sickly-looking people hiding in there. I'll tell you one thing, though. This experience definitely took my mind off my breakup for a while.
I bet it did. I forgot all about that damn girl. I almost died in a cave. The damn zombie was pulling me up. I had to fight for my life. Hey, that was hella good, dude. I ain't gonna care. I knew it. I called it. I told y'all at the very beginning. I said it, bro. I was like, the hills have eyes is real. I keep feeling like people around me, bro. This is crazy. But I knew it when he saw the cave. I was like, I freaking Knew it. And then this clown went in there, bro. But man, he was smart on the exit strategy though, because I was thinking just go down and just jump, do the rope, whatever. Sure, I was thinking they would cut it, which would suck, but I didn't think about that. I would rather them just cut it and just let me just fall flat to my death than me to just know you just pulling me up slowly, get me in there, and y'all about to torture the snot out of me, bro. But yo, if y'all enjoyed the video, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share, guys. Amazing, that's awesome. I will catch you guys next video. Charlie's out.